On est dans le quartier des artistes de Broadford, toujours sur l'île de Skye. Ça sent la mer, ça sent l'air iodé. Et du coup, avant de partir de l'île de Skye, il nous restait un truc à faire, c'est aller voir comment est fabriquée et comment est cuisinée une spécialité de l'île de Skye, mais aussi de toute l'Écosse, le saumon fumé.
So hopefully you've all got a rough idea why you're here. It's kind of in between weather at the minute. Some people from like Asia, obviously they're freezing here even in the summer. And some people like myself, this is actually quite a warm day. So yeah, it's all relative, isn't it? Yeah, I think we'll go inside first, it's more comfortable. What I'm going to talk about, first of all, you're the only smokehouse on Skye. There's only one. You'll see why there is one, see how much work's involved. Yeah, if you did visit them, they'd be in a factory setting. It'd be run by a computer, probably be automated with electricity or gas. You know, someone would push a button, they'd walk off and that'd be it. They'd probably then come at the end and it's finished. There's no computer, I'm the computer. Again, can go wrong. And I've got to contend with weather. This thing's outside and we're in Scotland. So, and also it's wood fired. So I'm using local wood to create the heat and the smoke. So it's all done by hand. Now why do I do it? Why do I go to all this trouble? Well, hopefully the products are better. That's the main reason. Right, so I'm going to be talking a bit about my backstory. It will lead into eventually why I ended up living here doing what I do. And in fact, someone said to me 15 years ago, you'd be living on the Isle of Skye. I'd be like, the Isle of where? Now I'm from a place called Matlock in Derbyshire. You've probably not heard of it, have you? Don't worry, I'm not offended. So my wife's German. My kids were raised here and they went to the Gaelic school. Someone said he was smoking fish for a living. But like, are you kidding me? That's weird. And how I became a chef, first of all. That was the first stepping stone. And becoming a chef initially wasn't so easy. When I was young, I was working in restaurants and bars as a waiter, just to earn a bit of money. But I wanted to travel and have fun. So I thought, let's go do a ski season. And I ended up in 𝒂𝒏 in France. They gave me the job 𝒕𝒓𝒂𝒊𝒏 when I told my mum this. This job sounds nice, doesn't it? You know what it means. 𝒕𝒓𝒂𝒊𝒏 sounds really good, that job. No. It's actually pot washer. Right? So what he gave, the tasks he gave us to do were very simple, but he could see we were keen to learn. So we started to help him make some of the dishes, replacing up the food for him. I'm looking at my CV and 𝒕𝒓𝒂𝒊𝒏 is not going to get me many interviews. So I do, if you work in HR at the moment, just cover your ears for a couple of seconds, alright? I do a bit of creative license on the CV, not too much guys, just a little bit to get me some interest in my CV. Now I send it off and I get an interview at a 5-star hotel. I was so inexperienced, so nervous. Everything I touched, I was just knocking over, I was burning, I was dropping. I essentially failed the test. But I've got one more interview. It's at the Ritz in London. Again, I'm panicking. This is one of the most flagship hotels in London. How am I going to get through this interview? And then he says the Ritz is famous for the afternoon tea. You might not be aware, there's 400 covers a day. So I'm thinking 400 covers, it must be a team of chefs working on it. There was one other chef. He's in complete panic. There's bread everywhere, it's carnage. He says, it's just us. And then he says, we've got to get it done. And off he went. He was like a robot sandwich maker, churning through these things, cutting all the crusts off perfectly. It was the most stressful 6 hours of my life. At the end of it, my head's spinning. I'm thinking, what on earth just happened? That was just ridiculous. I'm walking out of the hotel in a bit of a daze, to be honest. I said, well, it's tough, it's fast, isn't it? It's fast paced. He says, well, I think you did all right. We'd like to offer you the job. So that was it. Me was in as a chef at the Ritz. So I'm plotting my next move at restaurants at a lower level. And then I get the game-changing phone call, my first bit of luck, if you like. Very early in the morning, I answered the phone, and the guy on the other side said it was Mark Askew. And I'm thinking, who's Mark Askew? Who's Mark Askew? And I'm trying to figure out who he was. Well, I spoke to him, but I didn't have a clue. And then he said he was in Chelsea, Hospital Road. And then he drops the bombshell, who he really was. He says, I'm Gordon Ramsay's 3 Michelin star, executive head chef at the entire group. And that's when I nearly dropped the phone, and the colour fades from me. And then he says, the fact that you don't have a lot of skills or experience doesn't concern me. He says, working here is more about attitude. When you came in, I saw you were talking to the head chef and you were smiling and you're laughing. He says, in this kitchen, if you're smiling, you're having fun. If you're having fun, you'll make mistakes. And he says, this is 3 Michelin star. We don't have mistakes. And that's the first thing he said to me. I'm like, wow. Now the next thing he said, this is when I got a bit of a shock, is the hours we work. 18 hours a day. I'm thinking, I'm not sure if that's legal. And I'm also thinking, am I on salary? Because this is going to be a terrible hourly rate. But at this same point, I'm thinking, I'll do whatever it takes to work here. I shouldn't even be in this kitchen at this point, I didn't think. We cleaned the entire kitchen by hand with toothbrushes, the tiles. I'm looking at the kitchen, it was gleaming. I'm thinking, once a week, that's insane. I'm going to put you in the pastry section, he said. I'm thinking, why are you going to do that? I've got no pastry experience. When you make things out of yeast or rising agents, you get the measurements wrong, you get disasters pretty quick, I'm thinking. So my first week of work, I'm making macaroons and I'm piping them all out, 5 different flavours, 5 trays, all meticulously had to be the right size and the peaks on them. The head chef's come in this morning and he's got a teaspoon and he's checking everything meticulously. Nothing gets past him. It's almost, he's got x-ray vision, he can see through tables. And he takes one right off the very corner of the tray. I'm thinking, that's the worst one on the entire tray. Why have you done that? He takes a bite of one, he gets the 5 trays. I'm thinking he's going to put them on the side. Tell me not to use those, they're not good enough. He gets them and just throws them across the kitchen. Macaroons are scattering like confetti. I'm in total shock. And then all the other 12 chefs in the kitchen all turn at the same time and stare at me and give me a death look. It was a harsh lesson. But what I learned in a 3 Michelin star kitchen, if it's not perfect, you don't even leave it on the side, because if someone serves that to a mystery customer and that's an inspector, it might be the one thing that loses the points from 3 stars to 2. And 3 is the holy grail. They're so paranoid to lose it. Now the stress levels hit the top, and guess who turned up? Gordon Ramsay, of course. And this is the first thing he would do. Turn the extraction from 7 to 10. So you sensed him in the ceiling, he was arriving, like a godly presence. So that's the paranoia. I was asking the staff, what's his nickname? And they said, well, we call him the devil. So that's where Hell's Kitchen comes from. And he's actually worse in real life. People think on TV he's putting an act on. They've actually toned him down, which is hard to believe, isn't it? I know, it's insane. If I'm going to go back to the 3 star, I need to make some big sacrifices. It has to be the whole job and nothing else. And I was looking at the chefs that have been doing that for 4 or 5 years. A lot of them had anger problems, substance abuse in the kitchen. Yeah, and one chef actually died. Gordon Ramsay's main protege while I was there, which was a real shock. And at this point I'm thinking, that's not what I signed up for. That's when I jumped into IT recruitment. Recruitment, what do you need? A computer, keypad, internet connection. You can do it from home or anywhere. We could live anywhere. We'll get into smoked salmon eventually. Hang in there, guys. Hang in. This house was designed as a bed and breakfast, so we thought, let's reuse it. I'm doing recruitment from here. My wife's working from home as well. It was only breakfast I was making, but as an ex-chef, I had to make a good breakfast, you know. So yeah, so I'm thinking Skye's got to have a smokehouse. I wanted a traditional building. I want it to be relevant. Now I get lucky with an idea. I'm in the Arrow Centre in Portree and I walk into this exhibition room. I'm drawn to this big projector screen in black and white, very old film reel running. And it had these guys with very traditional beards and clothing. And they were climbing down these huge cliffs, the biggest in Britain actually, on ropes. They were catching these birds, which I discovered were gannets. In the corner of this exhibition room, there's a mock-up of a building, a cross-section of one, stone walls and a grass roof. It had one of the gannets hanging, they'd salted it, and they were eating them. And I thought, what is this place? First of all, the building looks really cool as well. I discovered it's a place called St Kilda. Now there's roughly about 20 of them, isn't there? Or so.
Okay.
They built over 1,000 of them. So this is before Netflix, smartphones, TikTok, and if I show my age, Facebook. So every dot in this landscape is one of those cleats. You see these dots? So yeah, they're everywhere. So the one guy would turn to another at the weekend, what should we do on these islands this weekend? Well, there's nothing to do. Let's just build another cleat. So there's the cleat-inspired smoke, and we're going to have a look at that shortly. So I'm thinking, who's going to help me with this? Now I bump into my neighbour, and this is when I get really lucky. This is like destiny. His accent's the same as mine. So where are you from? He says Derbyshire. That's the same county. Not a huge coincidence, but a little bit of one. Then I says, I'm from a town from there called Matlock. And he says, I'm from the same town. That's a population of 10,000. I actually lived in a village called Tansley of about 600 people. And he says, I'm from the same village as well. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, what a coincidence. Then he tells me he's the most senior archaeologist on Skye, retired. He knew about the history of Scotland, St Kilda, buildings, you name it. Then he turns around and goes, I've forgotten to tell you one thing actually. I'm one level below master stonemason, he said. I'm like, you're kidding me. So I reluctantly asked him, Martin, how much is this going to cost? I can't believe it. So this is when I created my new currency. You've heard of cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin. Well, nobody uses that here. I've got one called fish coin. The type of wood or species of trees you use for meat smoking will be different to fish, and the reason for that, fish is more delicate and meat can stand up to more stronger flavours. So I did my research and I thought what works well with salmon, and I've got apple and cherry wood as the top. And the people I'm speaking to are laughing at me. There's no apple trees on Skye, there's no cherry trees, forget it. Where in the world is there a lot of salmon? I'm drawn to North America, I'm drawn to Alaska. What are the Alaskans using? Then I discover they're using this species of tree. So I buy some in, I do a test batch, and it was not quite as good as the cherry and apple wood, but pretty good. I was pretty happy with it. I'm thinking, how am I going to get my hands on this? Then one day my kids are climbing up the tree, and I see the leaf shape, and I think, okay, that's a similar leaf shape in the buck. So I get the buck and I put them together. It's the same tree. And then I realise, you dummy, it's actually growing in your garden. And it's a native tree to Alaska as well as Skye. It likes wet ground. It's older. And now the issue with this, it's dry at the moment, but typically this is very wet. So I don't remove this off. It's going to stall the fires, first of all, but also you're going to give off quite funky flavours. One is the lichens, there's different species. It could be toxic potentially, so not good. So I need to make stuff like this. Cold smoking, the temperatures are much lower, so you don't need as much wood, but it's a much longer process. But let's go back 1,000 years. We didn't even have lights or electricity, but we still had produce. We still had seasons, like autumn. In autumn we get a lot of fruit. How do we make fruit last longer? We boil it down, remove the moisture content, and add sugar. So the bacteria doesn't like sugar, and we're removing the moisture which it likes. Some seasons we have a lot of vegetables, and in the UK it's very popular to make chutney. So you're boiling down the vegetables and you're adding vinegar. Bacteria doesn't like vinegar. Now, I've tried pickling salmon, it's not so great, trust me. A lot of sugar won't be very good either. So the next best thing is salt. It's actually one of the best things for curing. And the reason for that is it removes the moisture very effectively that the bacteria likes, and bacteria hate salt. Now there's two ways to get that 10% of the moisture out in this stage. Sea salt was more expensive, more minerals, more reactive, and actually the seas are full of microplastics, so actually rock salt tends to be purer and cheaper, so it makes more sense. 6 kilograms into each of these. That has to be meticulously boiled and dissolved. Next thing to go in is molasses. Now the idea of this is it creates a sweet finish. The older wood that I showed you is the initial tasting of the product. This creates a sweet finish, almost like a sherry cask or bourbon cask with whiskey. Things like clove, and it's very strong. Fennel seed, black pepper. This gets ground into a powder because you get better extraction from it. Now this goes in here, 100 grams each, and you're thinking, surely that's going to destroy the fish. But it doesn't. So that's the hot smoked. It's quite a dark one actually. That's the cold smoked trout. Trout tends to be fattier, and the fat carries more flavour. Stiff, serrated, it's good at going through bone, but not at detailed work. The first cut is behind the gill plate, halfway through the head. The second cut is removing the head. You remove the bottom fillet by going down like that. So from a 4 kilo fish, you've got 2 fillets of roughly over 1 kilo now, more flexible. So the purpose of this knife is going to do all the detail work. You have to trim them out as tightly as possible. My wife's got some of these for her eyebrows, you see. So between 8 and 10 minutes to fillet a salmon, so it's very time consuming. My very first batch of organic cold smoked, my fish supplier called me up and he goes, I need one for a VIP. I said, who is it? He says, I can't tell you for security reasons. I'm like, really? Normally when he comes here, he's got yellow wellets and he looks quite scruffy. He came in a suit. I'm like, hang on a minute, what's going on here? Can you tell me who it's for? It's for Prince Charles visiting Isle of Skye. I'm like, you're kidding me? That's my first batch. And then I'm thinking, if he chokes on a bone, I might kill the future kid. And I tell him he's going to pick out the right salmon. Anything the cold smoke touches, boxes, utensils, backpack machine, has to be randomised checked with this to make sure the bacteria is below a certain threshold. If this was completely sealed, the smoke becomes metallic tasting because it's not circulating. Also, we're losing 10% of the weight of the salmon here. So again, 70 kilograms of fish, you're going to lose 10%. 7 litres is a lot of moisture, so it needs somewhere to go, essentially. The next stage after 3 hours, from 40 Celsius up to 60 Celsius, very gradually. The next stage is to get to 90 Celsius for hot smoking. So to do that, these doors will be open, typically. I will foil these off, and if it's really windy or the wood's wet, I'll put fans onto it to increase combustion. Now, cold smoking is different. Between 20 and 30 Celsius for the 18 hours, you've got to stay in that window. If you go above that window for too long, you start to cook the product, and also it becomes dangerous for bacteria because you're getting close to body temperature. If you go below 20 Celsius for too long, guess what? You're not curing quick enough, you're not drying it quick enough, you have too much moisture in the finished product. So it's easy to do. I'm just adding wood every 45 minutes to an hour. How it works. I naively thought that the whole smoker I could use for hot smoking, and actually it's a very compressed window because hot air is rising fast, you see. Now, cold smoking is different. The setup is different. First of all, as I was saying, the salmon are hanging on string by their tails. Why do we do that? So this is single use, and by hanging them, they're not touching anything, are they? And by not touching anything, chance of cross-contamination is reduced. I've tried hot smoking and hanging, and my dogs were licking their lips, my labs, and they were coming around and they knew something was happening, and they stretch and stretch and stretch and they fall off hot smoking. So you don't hang hot smoking. So has anyone ever showed you this before? That's a well-done steak, medium well, medium rare, and rare steak. So it's like the consistency. So these fillets hanging, you feel they're firming up, they're losing that 10% moisture. They start to go bronze after about 16 hours, and I've calculated 18 hours is the optimal time for smoke and to dry them out as well. Cold smoking is more critical, but less technical, whereas hot smoking is less critical because you've got heat to kill bacteria, but a lot more technical because you're trying to get these temperatures gradients. Then I'll bring out the smoked tea.
The village was invading it with their army, and they were going to ambush and take their tea. Now, they couldn't take it away with them, so they thought, we'll destroy it. So they got the nearest trees, which were pine trees. They put it underneath the black tea, set fire to it, and it did burn, it smouldered. So the tea was getting smoked, and the army came, put out the fire, and thought, well, we saved it, is the tea okay? And then they discovered it tastes amazing. It's pine flavour. So yeah, it was kind of allegedly an accident how they made it.
You made the biscuits too.
Yeah.
Those are very good.
So President butter is it's like £2.95 a block, but once you've tried it and you've tasted it, you can't go back to the other butter. It takes 3 hours to make this from scratch. Everything's made from scratch. What's that essentially showing you is how versatile the hot smoked salmon is. You can make things out of it. And this is showing texture. Milk infused with bay leaves. Once the potatoes are cooked, you add sweated off onion and spring onion. The next to go in is the hot smoked salmon. Then all the oils come out of the salmon. Fresh herbs, you've got garlic chives in there, parsley, dill. The next stage is to add a bit of cream. That slows the cooking down, makes it a little bit richer as well. And then the next thing is to add lemon zest. Rather than lemon juice, we curdle it. So it's made with hot smoked salmon, chives, chili, ginger, coriander, which is a classic combination, toasted sesame seed coating on the sweet chili sauce. And now the middle plate is the trout, so that's the redder one. Cold smoke. That's exactly the same process for the organic salmon, which is the one next to the oat cakes. Save the mousse until the end. It's just come out of the fridge, and it's served with chili beetroot. It's on a little pancake with a bit of lemon zest as well. Very good, enjoy. All right. Thank you. Okay.
Ah ouais, la texture est totalement différente.
Where's the salmon? He knows the word salmon.
Une goûtée au saumon écossais, c'est fait. C'était comment?
C'était très bien.
C'était vachement bien. Hein. C'était super intéressant et en plus c'était très très bon. Ouais, il y a un travail sur les textures.
Ouais.
C'était top. On est en retard mais bon tant pis. Ouais, on a passé comme 2h30, mine de rien. 2h30 entre les explications, il nous a raconté sa vie. On quitte l'île de Skye et on va maintenant dans le 𝒕𝒖𝒎é pour voir le Eilean Donan Castle. Alors parcs-mètres, ils sont bien pratiques parce qu'au moins on peut payer à la carte, c'est pas comme beaucoup de parcs-mètres en France ou dans d'autres pays où on peut payer que en liquide et du coup quand on n'a pas de petites pièces avec soi on peut même pas payer. Là au moins on peut payer à la carte donc ça c'est cool. Alors je sais pas si on voit bien, mais je suis sur la caméra de l'Eilean Donan Castle. La webcam qui est juste là-haut. Voilà, on a fait une photo webcam. On a réussi à faire une photo avec une webcam publique. Ouais, j'ai fait une capture d'écran du coup. Donc on a une photo de webcam, c'est original mais...
C'est joli.
En fait, c'était pour se protéger des raids vikings que le château a été utilisé. Et après presque 2 heures de route, nous voilà maintenant à Glenfinnan, l'endroit où il y a le fameux viaduc en courbe. On va attendre que le train arrive, mais on va faire des trucs qui sont à côté en attendant. C'est le Glenfinnan Monument. C'est pas très intelligible du coup parce que tout est écrit en gaélique. Alors en fait là, c'est un terrain pour les Highland Games qui sont organisés tous les ans, où il y a des jeux, je crois, un peu particuliers, typiques d'Highland. Bon, et bien maintenant, on se rapproche du viaduc pour se mettre en position pour le passage du train. Vraiment, ça devrait être pas mal, parce que là, on sera dans l'axe du train. La combinaison de qualité. Sportswear en haut, kilt et chaussettes écossaises en bas. C'est un style. On n'est pas les seuls à avoir eu l'idée de se mettre là-haut. Mais en même temps, vu que le train revient de Mallaig vers Fort William, pour l'avoir en face de soi, c'est mieux d'être de ce côté-là. J'ai trouvé le bon angle maintenant. C'est gadoué quand même, ça se voit qu'il y a du passage. Bon, maintenant il faut installer le matos. Trépied. Hop. C'est l'objectif. Hop. Voilà, il manque plus qu'une chose, le train.
Les Chinois, ils y croient tous. Un truc de bâtard.
Il est à l'heure en tout cas. Et on peut encore cocher une action sur la to-do list, c'était voir le train des Jacobites, ça c'est fait. Et voilà le Glencoe. Maintenant nous sommes à Luss, une petite commune avec des maisons de pierre en bordure de Loch Lomond. On a du bol, on n'arrive plus de pas quand c'est en train de tourner. J'imagine que c'est sans doute pour commémorer la bataille de Falkirk.